Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize to you for subjecting you all to this horrible camera quality. I feel like every other video I apologize for the bad camera quality. I'm like, yeah, it's worse than normal. And, man, I don't know how much worse the quality can get, but she keeps getting worse. Usually it's bad by, like, modern standards, though. This is bad by 2009 standards. I'm making this on a Samsung ST, like, 201 or some shit from like 2009. But anyway, quick video on how to change the oil on a Ford 4.9 inline 6, specifically a 1982. Try and kind of get away where the camera doesn't look too bad. But yeah, 82 Ford F-150 with a 4.9 liter inline 6. And you might be wondering, how in the fuck do I change my oil on this thing, bud? Well, good news for you. This has got to be one of the easiest vehicles to change your oil on ever. First step that I do, and I've already done it, but you don't have to see it done. It's pretty damn simple. So on this particular truck, and I would imagine that most, if not all, the 4.9s are the same way. You get down here on the ground, under the truck, there's the oil pan, and there's the bolt. That is a 9/16. I'm sure there's some kind of metric that would fit too, but I used a 9/16 and it works just fine. You get a drain pan down here on the ground and you pull that and you just let it drain and wait a while. And then step 2 can be either one of two things. You can either put that back in and then pull your oil filter, which is what I did, or you can just pull the oil filter and let that just keep on draining for a few. Step 2, and I should have maybe filmed this before I threw my oil filter away, but step 2 is to get this off of here, and that turns counterclockwise. That's your oil filter right there on the old 4.9. You can get like an oil filter wrench, like this busted broken thing here. It's all twisted up. I need a new one for sure. This one, it was a little tricky to fit on there. Could be just because it's all twisted and fucked up. But the oil filter, damn it. The oil filter on those is pretty good size. And I got kind of small fucking liberal sissy hands, but that's decent size fucking filter. Pull the old one off. That's going to piss oil everywhere, so you're going to want to move your drain pan from that side to this side when you do that. And then, I already threw this fucking thing in the fire pit here. Like a dumbass. This is all nasty and covered in cigarette butts. But you see that little ring right there? I'm done touching that. So that little ring right there, what you want to do is take some clean oil. You want to make sure your hands are clean when you do it. Take some clean oil, put it on your fingertip, and just kind of run your finger around the edge like that. Say that little circle right there is your fucking O-ring. Just kind of run it around a couple times, make sure it's all smooth. Don't need a lot of oil, just enough to just get your finger wet. What I did was poured a little bit of this oil into the cap and then just put my finger in the cap. After that, and this is kind of a tricky part, and you can get to this from the top side. I did it from I unscrewed it from the top. I tightened it back up from the bottom. I will say, these big square trucks, if you're really short, really fat, or have arthritis in your ribs, it's going to be kind of tough. And I know that because although I'm not real short, I'm kind of fat and I got arthritis in my ribs. So this is doesn't feel great to be hunched up on this fucking thing. But that's how you do her. And you get it on there and you just kind of start turning that, and you want to make sure that, it's perpendicular to the ground, or parallel with the ground, perpendicular to the engine. Because you don't want to cross thread it. And if you put it on and you start screwing it on and it's like hard to screw on, you got to put some decent force on it right away. Stop it. Don't be a dumbass. You're cross threading it. that should go on real easy. You should be able to grab this. They have these little indents there. And basically, if you can't flick that and it spin about half a turn after your finger's already left it, you're probably cross-threading it. Either that or your threads are fucking nasty and your oil pan's probably nastier, and, you know, that's a problem. So either way, if that doesn't go on super easy, something's wrong. Either you got really thick, shitty oil and your engine's about fuckered anyways, or you're cross-threading it. Oh, by the way, the drain plugs are torqued to, I believe, 18 foot-pounds. Some are torqued to 22. I actually didn't grab my torque wrench for this. I just kind of did it by hand. You know, you do it enough times, you get to learn what kind of 18 to 20 and 22 pounds just feels like by hand. But if you're watching this video, I'd be willing to bet, I'm not a betting man, but I'd be willing to bet that you might not do enough wrenching to know what that feels like. I would highly recommend using a torque wrench, but right around 20 pounds is, you know, snug plus a full turn. And snug to me, and snug to my nephew, and snug to fucking Ronnie Coleman are going to be 3 different levels of tight. But snug is snug. I feel like that's a pretty, you know, people know what snug is. And, you know, just kind of use your own judgment. I would recommend using a torque wrench, but if you don't own one, you know, all you really do is change your own oil. You're not really wrenching on shit. You can get by without one. Kind of same goes for this. You get it about hand tight. They say hand tight plus a quarter turn. Once again, kind of small fucking hands. Not the best grip strength in the world, so I do it about hand tight plus like half a turn with the oil filter wrench. And I've never had a problem. So after that, whatever fucking step we're on now, here's where you pour your oil in, and you pull that off. And grab some kind of funnel. Make sure your funnel is clean. That's very important to make sure that your funnel is clean. I mean, like a little bit of dust or something isn't that big of a deal, but at least blow it out. Make some kind of effort to clean your fucking funnel. And depending on where you look online, it'll say that these take 5 quarts, and then some sites say it takes 6. I have found that it takes about 5, and this engine burns a little bit of oil, so I run 5.5 anyways. And then I have an extra quart that if I need it, you know, just kind of top off as needed. But pretty much 5 quarts is what I would say. Maybe the 4-wheel drives, or, you know, have a different oil pan, but I don't think the 4-wheel drives do have a different oil pan for the 4.9. I'm pretty sure it's the same oil pan. So I don't know. Maybe it's the older engines, you know, the 60s and 70s ones, you know, like the 240s and older 300s. Maybe they take 6 quarts instead of 5, or maybe it's the fuel injected 90s versions take 6 quarts instead of 5, or maybe they're all the same. But anyway, 1982 4.9 liter i6 takes 5 quarts. I put 5.5 in because an extra half quart, it's not going to hurt anything, especially in, you know, an old 300 that are known for being pretty much indestructible. And like I say, it burns a little bit of oil. So, you know, 5.5 quarts, not a big deal. So after you get, you know, you make sure everything's tight, and you get your oil in, what you want to do is just kind of check for leaks before you fire the truck up. And if there's no leaks or anything, you can fire it on up. So I'm kind of still waiting for the oil to settle a bit. I've already fired it up. I like to wait for it to settle and then check it, and then fire the truck up, and then let it settle again and check it again. And I've already fired it up, so I'm just going to let it settle for like an hour or so. But in the gauges, and a lot of these 80s Fords don't really work very well, if at all. The only working gauge this truck has is a speedometer and the fuel gauge. So I can't really watch my oil pressure gauge because, well, I can watch it, but it's not going to do any good. Nothing's going to happen. So if you do have a working oil pressure gauge, fire this thing up, wait a few seconds, and it'll take a couple of seconds, but watch that gauge. And then as soon as, and after like a few 10 seconds or so, if that gauge hasn't moved, shut it down. Something's wrong. Maybe if it's really cold outside and you're changing your oil, it'll take 15 seconds. For the most part, I would say if that gauge works and it hasn't moved in 10 seconds, something's wrong. Once the gauge does move, and as long as it's sitting where it always has before you change the oil, and sometimes your oil pressure will go up a little bit higher after changing your oil, especially if you haven't changed it in a while, you're on like 7,000 mile oil change. Over time, shitty oil can cause you to lose a couple pounds of oil pressure. So if it shoots up a little bit higher than normal, that's perfectly fine. As long as, I would say, if it goes above the A in normal, that's too much oil pressure. But for the most part, that you don't really ever suffer from high oil pressure. There are situations where it can happen. Story for another time. But what you really is more likely to happen is low oil pressure, and you don't want low oil pressure. So after you've confirmed that your oil pressure is good, where it always has been, maybe 5 pounds higher or something. As the truck is running, you want the engine to be running, and you come out and you look around, you make sure there's no leaks. I know there's a couple spots on the ground. That's from when I was doing the oil change, and I think some of that may be bird shit. We do have chickens around here. But while the engine's running, check right down here. If there is a leak, it's going to be from right there. I mean, it could be from your drain plug, but if your drain plug's leaking, you're really over torqued it and stripped out your threads, or you really under torqued it and it's not tight enough. And yeah, if you did everything right, you shouldn't have any leaks. Your engine shouldn't be knocking or clicking or anything. You should have good oil pressure showing up on your gauge. And then the last step I like to do is, after I've fired it up and just kind of let it run for a minute, let the oil circulate, I shut it down and let it sit for 2-3 hours. Make sure everything really gets to settle. You don't have to do it that way, but that's how I like to do it. And you just make sure all the oil settles in the pan, and before you drive it again, check your oil. If you're a little bit high on the oil, well, not high, you don't want to get high on oil. If your oil is a little bit high, chances are it'll probably burn off. These old inline sixes, they'll burn a little bit of oil, especially if there's a bit of extra oil in there. If it's really high, then you put way too much in, and it's on you to figure out how to deal with that situation. And it should be just right around 5.5 quarts. And if it's a little low, again, look at how much you put in. If you did put in the 5 quarts, then maybe your truck does take 6. Throw another half a quart in, check it. If it still needs a little more, throw a full 6 quarts in there. If it's still low after that, you either got the wrong dipstick in your truck, or you got a leak somewhere that you're not noticing. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, this video is going on 13 minutes. Didn't have to be nearly this long. I just haven't made a video in a while. I'm bored and just wanted to fucking talk to somebody, I guess. So that is how, I'm just going to leave it like that because I'm going to check it in a little bit. But that is how you change the oil on a 1982 Ford 4.9 liter inline 6. If you learned something, it would really help me out if you subscribed, or maybe liked the video, or left a comment, or even if you leave a comment saying, dude, you fucking suck, go get bent. I want to hear it. So thanks for watching, and peace out.